Wanting to keep you informed on important issues like the mayoral race, MetroSTL.com has reached out to each of the candidates to answer questions regarding crime and public safety in the city. As homicide numbers ride an all-time high, the next mayor of St. Louis will have to address the violence that has taken grip on the city and find concrete solutions. MetroSTL.com connected with Mayoral Candidate and President of the Board of Aldermen, Louis Reed, to discuss his thinking on crime should he become the next mayor of St. Louis. This interview has been edited for length and clarity. What do residents need to know about your crime reduction plan should you become the next mayor of the city of St. Louis?
Well, thanks for the question, and also thanks for taking time out and interviewing the various different candidates to assure that the public is well informed. I've already taken major steps toward addressing some of the systemic issues in the city of St. Louis as it relates to violent crime. I passed an ordinance, last year that requires the city of St. Louis to develop a comprehensive public safety plan that is data driven, right? And we also worked within neighborhoods and communities all across the city of St. Louis so that there's buy-in and a collective effort in the planning of this overall public safety plan. Public Safety Department is undertaking that right now. But beyond that, when you think about public safety, you have to think about it beyond just policing, right? Which is why I put in place Cure Violence in the city of St. Louis. What Cure Violence does, it gives us an opportunity to get out in front of the public safety issues, right? So the Cure Violence personnel pick up clientele from people within the community that they're serving to address the public safety issues at the root. So we can provide those services to families and to people who really truly need them, who with those services will not enter into a life of crime. We have to not just create jobs, but connect people to those jobs. So that's a big component of this is job creation, but also connecting them to them, reaching out to them so that they understand and that they do get into the workforce and develop different habits and turn their lives around. And then you look at the conditions that some of the neighborhoods are in. We have rows and rows of vacant buildings and infrastructure issues, single parent households. All of these things play a role in the overall picture of public safety. So a comprehensive public safety plan takes into account all of those things. Access to our rec centers so that our youth have productive activities to get involved in, that they can do it freely, and it's easy for them to engage in these productive activities. So that also plays a role in the public safety picture. So, so you have on the one end, you have programs like Cure Violence. Then you have effective policing strategies. Then we have the community involvement piece and infrastructure, rec centers, and positive activities to keep our youth involved, and so that they develop skills that'll serve them well as they go on to adulthood.
You are in a policy-making position as the president of the Board of Aldermen and have initiated anti-crime plans like Cure Violence. Where does this program stand now, and what happened to Cure Violence?
The way Cure Violence works is once it's set up, and the personnel that are working for Cure Violence are trained, they have to begin integrating themselves into the community and picking up members of the community as clientele, right? And once they pick, let's say there's an 18-year-old kid that they've identified as a person that, because of all the other things around him, his collection of friends or whatever, right, is headed toward that life of crime, right? So once they pick that person up as a client, they check with them regularly. They check with them, every other day or whatever. They check with them, they talk with them. They get them connected to to community resources, so that if they need job training, if whatever their interest is, helping them to fulfill their interest beyond just what is happening directly in their community. So we just got kind of an overview back from one of our pure violence sites this morning. And I can, if you give me a minute, I can pull it up, or I can send it to you after this interview so you can take a look at it. But it shows, there's really positive things have already come out of it. I think it was in the Walnut Park area, but there hasn't been any shootings in that area since the program has gotten up and running. So, and then they also list in there various different outreach efforts that they've worked on throughout the community, resources that they've delivered to the community, and that sort of thing. So when you look at what Cure Violence does, and what is shown on a national basis, is that more people go on to complete their GED, right? More people obtain long-term employment. More families are stabilized, and parents say that they've learned to become better parents, and have stabilized their household because of some of the resources that Cure Violence brings with them to the community.
Some of your mayoral rivals have stated that closing the workhouse should be the next mayor's top priority. Do you agree?
Here's the thing. Anyone that's focused on, closing the workhouse as, the top priority in the city of St. Louis, when we will be coming out of COVID, hopefully post-COVID, and we see an end to what's happening in our city with our economy tanking, a big gaping hole in our budget, and the fact that, we had a record number of homicides last year. We've seen more kids shot and killed in the city of St. Louis year over year than ever before. We only see between 30%, on a high end, 30% of the open murder cases closed on an annual basis. On the low end, 10% of the open murder cases solved on an annual basis, which means that 70 to 90% of the incidences where people have been shot and killed in our city, they're still walking free on the streets of the city of St. Louis. A 7-year-old girl just this past week, shot and killed, her and her father murdered in the city of St. Louis, who was a straight A student who had just finished, baking with her grandmother. Look, I have a lot of priorities. My priorities will be public safety, and public safety. We are going to get the shooters off the streets of the city of St. Louis. We're going to ensure that the families have some closure in these record number of murder cases. Here's the deal. On other cities, when they see a closure rate on murder cases at 60%, they're alarmed. Our closure rate on a good year is at 30%, right? So that has to be our number one priority. So my number one priority will be addressing issues of public safety in the city. It affects absolutely everything that we do. And it's not going to be, my number one priority is not closing the workhouse, and it's not legalizing prostitution.
Where do you stand on defunding the police?
Those are catchy phrases and everything, and it gives people something to rally behind. There's a growing movement to group all police officers under the same veil as bad police officers. My brother's a police officer, down in Alabama, right? So, and he's a good person. So I know not all police officers are bad, right? And I know that we need effective policing in the city of St. Louis. Effective policing is a key component to addressing the overall issues of public safety.
How do we deprogram the gun culture in St. Louis?
Again, that's where cure violence comes in, right? The cure violence is absolutely key to changing the culture, right? Because you actually brought up a really good point that a lot of what people are seeing play out is things that have become the norm and acceptable within certain communities, right? And this gun culture and access to illegal firearms is a problem. When you look at the state has a one-size-fits-all policy as it relates to guns. But you know what? What works for cities and townships in the middle of Missouri really doesn't work for the city of St. Louis. So we need to work to shape what's happening at the state so that we get beyond just that one size fits all gun policy where although in the middle of Missouri they may be using their guns for hunting and they don't want people to infringe on their rights for hunting, we have to find a happy medium where we have some laws in place that will slow the rate of illegal guns that are just flowing directly into the streets of the city of St. Louis and being used to commit criminal acts. Well, again, because you look at cure violence, that's just starting, right? That's just starting, and you look at the Youth Crime Prevention Fund. We've been at that for a while and funded nonprofits and stuff across the city to integrate back in the community. But remember when I talked earlier and I said it's not just enough to create a job, but you have to connect the people to the job, right? The people in need to the job. So those wraparound services and the delivery mechanism is just as important, right? So if you do not have a comprehensive delivery mechanism attached to it, so that you can get that service to the people most in need of it, it's almost not like having that service at all. So that's where cure violence comes in. Cure violence, you have very highly skilled people who have been on the wrong side of the law before and now have committed themselves to turning their communities around with access to all of these resources that are available to help stabilize families, get kids off the streets into productive activities, and get people into jobs and education training and job training and all these things, right? So they're connected and they can deliver these things to the people most in need. That delivery mechanism is absolutely key. And I also will say this, policing isn't the only thing that has to be in place to address the issues of public safety. It's not, a lot of components of public safety aren't policing issues, right? There's drug-related issues, right? There's alcohol dependency. There's mental health issues, all these other things, which is why we've instituted the cops and clinicians so that we can get people effective treatment along the way also. So what we do now is we provide funding so that Crime Stoppers can offer much larger rewards than they normally do. So Crime Stoppers would normally offer between a $1,000 and $5,000 reward. What other cities have done is they've supplemented that fund so that Crime Stoppers fund could get up to $20,000, $25,000 for people coming forward with information, that leads to the arrest and capture of someone who's committed a violent crime. What happens when that word gets out, we get a lot more information coming in, because part of the challenge with closing some of the open murder cases is that you do not have, at least in the city of St. Louis, we do not have a lot of participation coming in from the community at large. So this allows an easy way for the community to engage, do it in a total anonymous fashion. They do not, Crime Stoppers, they do not keep your phone number. They don't keep your email address or anything like that, right? They've set it up in a way where you can get this cash reward for information and keep it anonymous. But to do it, you have to contact Crime Stoppers to do it. It's his thing. People have to think about the public safety issue in very broad terms. The reason why we still have a issue with violent crimes in the city of St. Louis is because it's difficult, right? And the reason why cities across America are it's a constant challenge for them because it's difficult, because you're talking about behavioral issues that you have to begin to change within communities, across the metropolitan area that you serve in. But cities have been across America now have deployed techniques that work. I think it's very important that we deploy those techniques here in the city of St. Louis. We should not be trying to recreate the wheel. Cure violence, it's just getting up and running, but some of the early returns are very positive and things that we see coming out of the neighborhoods that they're working in. We know other cities across the country and domestically and internationally have seen great success with it. But it's not just that program alone. You need cure violence, right? You need job creation. You need the wraparound services and the delivery mechanism to get people connected to those jobs. You need economic empowerment for the families within our community. You need funding to our rec centers and outreach efforts to get the kids and the youth back into the rec centers so that they can get involved in more positive activities and begin to grow into productive adults. Early childhood education is also a component that is really, really important that we invest in the city of St. Louis. So I want people to think about, public safety in much broader terms, because that's how we're going to get to the bottom of it. We're also going to get to the bottom of it by having, by not allowing the murder of our youth or anybody in our city be yesterday's news. The murder of the young security guard at Metro, right? That should not become yesterday's news. Thank God they found the person, and they found the person that committed that heinous act. The murder of the young girl and her father, that can't become yesterday's news. And people who commit murder in the city of St. Louis, they have to understand that we're going to use every available resource, and you will be captured, and you will be held accountable, and you will serve time and go to trial for the crimes you have committed. The city of St. Louis will not let these things become yesterday's news. As the next mayor of the city, those issues will stop on my desk, and the buck will stop with me. And I will take direct ownership of it and work each and every day to assure these families do not have to live through what my family have lived through. I understand what it's like to lose a loved one to gunfire, right? And I understand what it's like not to be able to have closure in it. And I don't want another family to ever live through what my family has had to live through.